All right. Hello, everyone, as you're coming in. Oh, it's not me.
Hi. Hi, everyone. So nice to see you. Sorry, I'm just popping in a minute late. I'm so thrilled to welcome our second round of breakout sessions. So in this room, we have an expert panel with Trista Chan, Meg Bowman, and Sarah Hall on increasing revenue through referrals and partnerships. Our speakers will share proven strategies, real-world success stories, and actionable tips to help you leverage practitioner referrals, maximize partner relationships, and build your client list with ease. I'm really pumped for this session. This has been such a big question that has been asked through our community. And the session will be moderated by Practice Better's partner manager, Natalie Mullen. The floor is yours, Natalie.
Thank you, Avita. I am so excited for this panel, and I hope it's going to be of great value to our PB community. And, referrals are an incredibly important part of business growth. But before we get into that, I just want to introduce our panelists. So, first up, we have Sarah. Sarah empowers healthcare professionals, nutrition coaches, and fitness experts to escape burnout, scale their businesses, and reclaim the freedom they once dreamed of. And her mission is to help others achieve financial stability and time freedom without sacrificing their sanity or family time. Yes. Then we also have Trista. Trista is a registered dietitian, founder of the Good Life Dietitian, a virtual nutrition clinic supporting women with hormone and gut disorders to improve their health and relationship with food. And last but not least, we have Meg Bowman. She specializes in mental health and gut health through a functional nutrition lens, integrating polyvagal. Did I say that right? Okay, good. Polyvagal theory. She helps clients build resilience and restore balance by addressing the mind body connection. So, as I said, referrals is so important. We always hear our clients, saying like, how do they grow their business? How can they make it sustainable? How do they use their network? How do they build their network? So this is, if that's what you're interested in, you are in the right place. I'm going to share two quick stats from a survey that we sent out to our customer base. The first one is that 9 out of 10 practitioners said that referrals were an important source of new customers. So it's not something to just, shy away from or be like, I'm not going to try it. Everybody's doing it, so it's important for you to do it too. And the reason why they're doing it, not because it's a fad, but because it works. It's effective. So we want to get into that today. As well, word of mouth and referrals was cited as one of the top strategies used to get more clients. So, what are some of the benefits of referrals and partnerships? One, it allows for connection and trust. It's an alternative to some traditional marketing like social media or emails, ads. It's not as labor intensive. There's an exponential return and it allows for sustainable business growth. So, we're going to begin this discussion by starting off discussing referral networks before transitioning to speak about partnerships and then affiliate programs. So, let's dive in. My first question is to Trista. Trista, I'd love for you to share how has a referral network been helpful to your business and how do you use Practice Better to implement your referral systems?
Thanks so much, Natalie, for the warm welcome. And I just want to kind of echo that, social media isn't the only way because building referral networks with other primary care providers have been so beneficial in increasing our client flow. So as an example, I do have a special focus on PCOS and endometriosis in my patient population. And a lot of these patients experience infertility or subfertility and end up going to fertility clinics in order to get IVF treatments, right? And I have a lot of partnerships built with Ontario-based fertility clinics, and they send a lot of patients my way, and it has been so helpful because the majority of these patients, interestingly enough, are completely unaware of the nutrition benefits on supporting fertility and improving the success rates of IVF treatments. So I think that really speaks to sometimes as providers, Like whether you're a dietitian, nutritionist, naturopath, nurse practitioner, we live in a little bit of like a bubble where it makes sense for us. Like, of course, nutrition is helpful. Of course, that's part of holistic health. But sometimes we take that for granted. And for patients, the layman, they don't necessarily know that, right? And they're not necessarily going on social media to find a dietitian or a nutritionist to support their fertility. They're just going to a fertility clinic. And by establishing a strong partner with that centralized care and that centralized clinic, they can then refer patients as appropriate, and it only improves their their health outcomes as well. And I think that does a lot of advocacy for nutrition in the holistic healthcare space. And in terms of how I use Practice Better to support that, so I really, really lean into the referral forms that I've created through the faxing feature on Practice Better. So when I'm doing outreach to fertility clinics, I've created a little package demonstrating the success rates and using nutrition in fertility care. I send along a little bit more about our programs available, how we can make their lives easier and help their patients improve their success rates. I fax it over to the clinic. I find fax is I find more successful than email just because I think it's just a little bit more guaranteed that they'd actually get access to the document. Versus in emails, I've tried them in the past. I think sometimes it gets deleted, got sent to spam, right? And then from there, you have that rapport. And the doctors then fax me patients, they fax me their lab work, it's all private, and I'm able to actually attach that referral to the patient's initial assessment notes. So I'm also able to keep track of where each patient is coming from as well.
That is so helpful. Thank you for sharing that. And I love that you took that initiative and came into Practice Better and created your own referral form and built it out to your liking, to your needs. And it's something that you can now use with practitioners and with your clients. So I'm going to move to Meg. Meg, I'd love to know, what tools do you use within Practice Better to make it easy for practitioners to refer out to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. We use it in a number of different ways, actually. We run a report every month based on our intake form. In the intake form, we ask where people are coming from, where they've been referred from. So we run a report, we grab that data, and so we can reach out to people that way. But we also have a warm welcome page on our website where we have created a form in Practice Better that we've embedded right on our website. And the form is actually for providers. It's not for clients. So if a provider is in session with the client, they can go onto that form and go ahead and fill out the client's information. And as we all know, sometimes people make referrals and then you never hear from them. But in this case, the provider is giving us that information directly. And so we can take that information and reach out to the client. So it takes that pain point away from the client and makes it just a little bit easier.
I love that. And I remember, like, Meg shared her website and I was looking and I was like, oh, this is so smart. And what's great about it is the form is embedded directly into her website from Practice Better. It's already HIPAA compliant, so the practitioner knows that. They know that the information that they're inputting for their client is going to be safe too. And then Meg, you talked about running a report. So you run the report and then you will find those referrals and reach out to them. Is that how it goes?
Absolutely. And we look at who's referring, and we also have a month over month report. We have different tabs on the report spreadsheet, so we can tell this provider was sending, I'm sorry, my dog's crying. This provider was sending a lot of referrals 2 months ago, and now they've dropped off. So it gives us the ability to touch back if we need to do a little touch point with somebody. So it helps us track.
I love that. And then you also mentioned something when we had spoken earlier about your admin and the tasks. And if you can just share that, because I thought that was such a brilliant way to use the task management system that we have, or the feature that we have.
Absolutely. So with each new intake that we do, our admin gets an automated task, and her task is to go in, look at who the primary care was, and send a fax. And this is before we've ever talked to the client. So we don't even know necessarily what's going on with the client. We send a fax to the provider saying, hey, this client is coming in. We know this was your patient. Thank you so much for the referral. Even if they didn't refer, we don't know that we know that's the primary care. Thank you so much for that. And we'll be in touch when we have a little bit more information. So that just happens automatically. And then the providers, once they actually get to know the person, they reach out as well. But just to have that task land on admin's task list every time we have a new intake, it really creates opportunities for, maybe the client said that their doctor told them to come to us, but the doctor actually doesn't know us. They just said, go find somebody. And so it gives us an opportunity to reach out to providers that may not know about us.
I love that. I think that that's such a smart idea. I'm going to circle back to Trista to ask, well, what's the best way to maybe approach potential primary care physicians and propose a mutually beneficial relationship?
Yeah, great question. So when I first started, I was doing a lot of faxing, cold emails, cold contacts, essentially, which I still do, which my team does support with. But I find the best way to establish a strong relationship outright is to actually show the physicians the results. So one thing we recently implemented last year is that on our actual intake form for any new patient who may be self-referred, right? Maybe they found us through other traditional forms or Google or social media, what have you. On their actual intake form, there's a section where we ask them who their primary care physician is, their contact, and if they consent to our clinic actually contacting them to help coordinate care. Most of the patients love this, right? I'm based in Ontario personally, and a common complaint we hear is that sometimes our healthcare system, the care is just a little bit disjointed. So they're like right off the bat, they're like super happy, they're super relieved. We go through the full initial assessment, I finish up my chart notes, and after I publish it, I literally just go on the notes on Practice Better. I click the three dots on the right corner and I compile or compose a fax from there. And I fax that note directly to the contact they provided on their intake form, so their doctor or their nurse practitioner, or most often. I send a little note introducing myself, saying, hey, I've just had an initial assessment with your patient. They provided your information. This is what we're working on. This is nutrition diagnosis. So they can receive that fax. And that's actually the best, I think, first point of contact, because you're not leading with just a cold intro. You're showing them, hey, this is the care that I'm actually providing to your patient. This is the plan we have to monitor. And I continue to follow up, right? So whether I'm working with a patient for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, it's very easy for that continuity of care to fall off. But I'm always every few months, every few follow-ups, like, oh my goodness, it's time for me to check in and keep their physician or their other provider actually updated on it. So you're also constantly on their mind and they can actually see that progression of the patient as well. So leading with results if possible. And if not, also just sharing the value that you're providing, whether that's through studies. If I'm ever doing cold emails, also share blog posts that are relevant, podcasts that I have that are relevant, just to show that connection for providers, because sometimes they don't even know the value of nutrition, right? Until we provide that education and provide that advocacy for ourselves.
I think that word advocacy is so important to advocate not just for yourself as the practitioner, but advocate for the value of what you do. How are you helping transform patients' lives, and how can you be a partner? And this is what I love, is because it actually expands the idea of collaborative care, because you're keeping them informed along the way. So you might not be on a team together, but think about what a beautiful relationship it is if their dietitian under and the primary care physician or nurse practitioner are working together. They know what each other is working on. That just allows for better client outcomes. And of course, that's what we're all about. Now, I'm going to pivot to Sarah. I'd love to know, just from your experience working with your clients, what are some non-traditional referral sources that practitioners can explore besides the PCP world?
Yeah, so I love the traditional route because I think that, I still think there's some education to be done with providers and PCPs about what dietitians do or what nurse practitioners may can help their location with. But there's such a big shift to a lot of other non-traditional places trying to bring on nutrition education or bring on other forms and expertise from other people. And a lot of them, like chiropractic clinics, even just therapy clinics, who maybe they focus on intuitive eating or something, and they're looking for an intuitive eating dietitian or practitioner. One that kind of popped out in 2024, and I think it came along with the GLP-1 trend, was med spas. places where they may do more cosmetic things like Botox and lip injections and things like that. But now they're adding on a layer of lab work and weight loss clinics and coaching styles of programs. And I've had a lot of my clients partnering with these types of clinics. Even currently, I have a registered dietitian who partners with a PT clinic, and they send referrals to her every single month. But the med spa is the biggest one I think that came up last year that I thought, man, this is such a great opportunity for a lot of practitioners to go and just like rub shoulders with those people, because they're popping up on corners every day in most of our cities. And even surprisingly enough, like yoga places and sometimes even like places like Lululemon, I've seen want to partner even for events with healthcare practitioners, because people that come in there are living active lifestyles sometimes. So those are a lot of the non-traditional outside of PCP type clinics I think we should really be all like focusing on to add a layer to our practices.
I love that. And it's just about adding the layer and just expanding our horizons and seeing,
Yeah.
because you just never know who's going to be a good partner for you. And I think alignment is important, right? So do they align with your values? Do they align with the kind of work that you do? Do they align with the treatment outcomes? If you're a holistic care practitioner, do they align with that? And do they see value in what you do? And again, they might not see it right away, but then it's your job to help them see, guide them along the path of what are the benefits that you can bring, and always thinking about how it's going to be mutually beneficial. So it's not just a one-way road that you're just receiving referrals and that's it. If there's an opportunity for you to also refer back to that practitioner, great. Sometimes they don't want it, but if it can happen naturally, that's wonderful. Or other ways that you can collaborate, even on educational webinars or promotions and blog posts and stuff like that, where both people's work and services can be highlighted. So thank you so much for sharing that. Meg, I'd love to know, are you seeing specific specialties that particularly benefit from referral relationships? And where have you seen the most success in your business?
That's a great question. I'm going to piggyback on what you just said, and I'm going to repeat it in a different way, really trying to find alignment. So, where I have found success, because my specialty is mental health, I network with an awful lot of therapists. Lately I've been really interested, because of my own experience, in kind of the perimenopause, menopause stage of life. And so I'm looking to network with people like realtors who specialize in downsizing. I'm looking at talking to college coaches, because college counselors, because a lot of people in that stage of life have kids that are about to go off to college. So I actually, really go far beyond just healthcare providers in terms of who I'm looking for, and think about where else are my clients spending time. Yeah.
I love that. Look, for a second you said realtors, and I was like, did I hear right? I was like, where is she going with this? But I see and I understand, and that's really thinking outside the box. But I love that, and I
Yeah.
love that. People are everywhere, right? So a lot of times we hear this struggle from our practitioners of, I can't find any clients, but they're out there. So you might just have to get creative in terms of how you're finding them, because they have these challenges. You have the solutions. So it's just a matter of finding each other, right? And so using referrals and being strategic with who you partner with can help you along that way. And Trista, I know that you don't only use a primary care network as well. So maybe you can just tell us a little bit about what some of your out of the box ideas are as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have a lot of, or a lot of my facilitated relationships are also with other allied healthcare professionals. So very similar to Meg, also a lot of therapists, as a lot of patients within the PCOS endometriosis space do experience disordered eating. So a lot of therapists. I have some personal trainers within Toronto that I have collaborated with. And part of that networking, the beauty, I think, of networking in those spaces outside of maybe medical clinics is I find it's a little bit more creative, and you can have a little bit more fun in terms of the way you collaborate with them, which is so fun. So as an example, last year I partnered with a personal trainer. She's a women's strength coach in Toronto to run an in-person International Women's Day event. we did personal training session, we did a nutrition workshop. I've been on physiotherapists' podcasts and vice versa. So the beauty of connecting in those spaces is that you can also collaborate on a lot of marketing initiatives versus the traditional just discussion around that interdisciplinary care. So the beauty of living in Toronto personally is that there's like endless practitioners, there's endless businesses when it comes to wellness, nutrition, all the way from very, very complex disease management to like optimizing nutrition. There's med spas everywhere, there's yoga studios, there's therapy clinics, there's all these like fancy gyms popping up. I can't even keep track. So the possibilities are endless there, which is pretty cool.
I love that. And that brings a completely different angle. Just thinking about how can you have fun again as a practitioner and how can you collaborate in this unique ways, even in-person events. I love that idea for International Women's Day, kind of getting together, doing this class. That is really thinking beyond the box. So hopefully it's encouraging everybody who's listening to think, how can you think outside the box to really grow your network, but have fun while you're doing it? So I'm going to go back to you, Sarah, shifting gears a little bit, because we've talked a little bit about the referral network, but there is also affiliate networks. So I'd love for you to explain what an affiliate network is and how is this different from a traditional referral program?
So there's just one slight difference typically is that there's some sort of money exchange normally on affiliate networks because they're earning money for posting or promoting, and it is typically something that's going to work well using social media versus like your regular referral system may rely more on like an individual. An affiliate system can really blow up on social media. If you have one client that has a following and they post about you, I mean, we all know how that goes. If you are watching this and do use social media, one person posting about you gets insane results sometimes. And sometimes those people are interested in becoming a partner or affiliate to earn some extra income. So the difference mostly is with the traditional referrals, it's going to be more like Meg and Trista were sharing, more of a traditional approach. There's not going to be money involved typically unless the referrals are coming from your clients. And then sometimes there can be an exchange of, hey, you know what? You referred me this client. I have this payout system for these client referrals. Or maybe you give them a perk or something like a free session or something like that. So typically there's going to be some sort of exchange of a perk or compensation with the affiliate. And what I like to do and recommend is adding them together. Like, don't choose one, just do both if you can, because I think referrals are great, and partnering with all these locations that all of us have discussed are amazing. And it's like a lifelong partnership for a lot of people, as long as that first, that business that you partner with is still in business. That chiropractor is still in business, or that PCP. But the affiliate side brings on this whole other layer. And I think the whole purpose of our panel is to discuss extra ways to bring on additional income. And so that's the main difference in just the traditional referral and the affiliate side of things.
That's really helpful. So thank you for breaking that down for us. So Meg, when you're exploring potential partnerships, how are you determining whether a partnership opportunity is a good fit for your business or not?
That's a great question. I really do think number one for us is values and alignment, because I am looking for somebody that I can help as much as they can help me, because I want that to be a long-term beneficial relationship. So, even we have a therapy practice where I do their newsletter. I do an article in their newsletter 4 times a year. And even in that exchange where we get referrals after that, it's quite fun to watch that happen 4 times a year. Even in that exchange, when I'm writing the newsletter article, I'm trying to figure out how can I write this to both reflect what we do to get the referrals, but also I know that therapy practice does other services other than therapy. So could I possibly also include a shout out to one of their services to kind of give them that boost? So I'm looking for a way that they can help me, but also that I feel comfortable enough with their services that I can help them.
I think what you said about you feel comfortable enough on both sides is so important. And it reflects this idea of trust and credibility, right? So, Trista, my question to you is, what are some of the steps that you've used to build trust and credibility with referring providers?
Absolutely. I think first and foremost is providing great care for patients, right? Because at the end of the day, I think sometimes as business owners, it can be very tempting to just think about the numbers behind it all, right? The success. But as a dietitian, like my ultimate goal is to provide great patient-centered care. And I really believe so long as you're consistent, you're hardworking, you're really giving that individualized attention to each and every patient that walks through your door, like your work speaks for yourself, for itself, right? So first and foremost is providing great care. Two is communicating directly with their provider when needed. So as an example, when I first started off over 5 years ago, I was like really shy about like requesting blood work from physicians, right? Like I tell my patient, okay, we need updated iron panel, we need updated thyroid panel, but like here, I'm going to send you the labs that you can then book a doctor's appointment and then get a lab requisition and then go get that lab work. And then you send that to me when that's done, right? Now, what we do, which is much more effective in establishing trust and actually getting that lab work done, is I will communicate directly with their physician. So I'll say, hey, if we knew each other, great, give them a quick update. If we don't, then I'll introduce myself, briefly what I do, but most importantly, this is the work I've been doing with your patient so far. This is why I'm requesting you actually write this lab requisition for them. Most of the time, if you give a rationale and you justify why, because you are a strong clinician, right? The physician will say, sure, why not? They get the requisition, you eliminate the middleman, it's less burden on the patient, and that physician now has a better understanding of what you do. And that's another more form of advocacy for nutrition care, right? And we're not just here telling people to, eat more apples. It's really, we can provide that medical nutrition therapy and that clinical care as well. So I think really owning your role in interdisciplinary care, being really confident in your clinical skills and yourself as being the nutrition expert in the circle of care, and then speaking to your colleagues as such, right? Not shying away from that direct communication. And I like to think of it as, before I did private practice, I worked in an in-person clinic and I would see the doctors all the time, right? Like you're always in the background, you're in their background, they're in your background, you get to know each other as people, and it's so much easier to touch base about patients and ask for little things like that and feel comfortable with it. When you're working in a virtual nutrition clinic, you do have to give yourself that extra push and get into that habit of operating like you're still in that interdisciplinary space, even though you're really working from your home office, right? And you're working through a laptop or a MacBook. So I think it's that, being comfortable in your skills, being confident, always continuing your education and your clinical skills, and also being like, don't shy away from communicating that and then asking for what you need to do your job better from other providers.
I love that. I think that's such a great tip to remember. It's like you turn around, like, oh, there's nobody behind me. There's no other, care provider that's in the same office with you if you're working remotely or if you're working from home or something like that. But you just need to be intentional about creating that network still virtually, reaching out. Some of the onus is going to be upon you to just kind of break the ice and make sure you establish and maintain those relationships. And Sarah, I'm going to ask you the same question, but this is coming from a different angle now. First of all, is trust and credibility as relevant for affiliate marketing or affiliate partnerships? Because, I'm sure we've all seen on Instagram or different places where you have like influencers that are promoting like every single thing under the sun. Sometimes they're competing products, and you're like, for me personally, it kind of turns me off. And I'm like, I don't know if I should trust you or not. So I would love to know your opinion on how trust and credibility play into the affiliate partnership network.
Yeah, so it definitely plays into it. I mean, I think anything we do as practitioners, and most of us are coming from a very ethical background, but there are a lot of people online that just will take any affiliate partnership that comes their way. And I do think it, for the common person, makes them say, well, you're selling everything. You know what I mean? So it then becomes like, obviously the partnership is about money, not about, I really truly love this product, or your clientele really truly loves your product, and there are two ways to do affiliates. There's your own affiliate program where you have people that just love you, love your course or love your program, and they refer to you. Even if they didn't get paid, they would refer to you. That is such a wonderful affiliate partnership. But there are also ways we can earn affiliate income through partnering with companies and products, and even Amazon and supplements. And you can literally get paid for so much. But I think the first thing, and everybody has said it today, is alignment. Like, do you actually love the product and use or recommend the product already? I was working with a intuitive eating dietitian not long ago, and she tried the product out for this company. She hated it, made her stomach all upset. And I said, well, we're not accepting this. It's like, you don't accept partnerships well, you shouldn't accept partnerships that you don't really align with and likely aren't already using those products or making recommendations for those products. I do think less is more as well, because it will impact your credibility, particularly if you are using social media, because like you said, Natalie, you go to someone's link and their link tree is like 15 links long. Like it's too much when it comes to like really trusting, especially with the competing products. Oh, I recommend this gut health supplement and this one. Which is it? And so definitely picking things that you align with, and then in turn having a really great product if you want your clients, colleagues, customers, etc., to want to be an affiliate for your program or course. It goes back to what Trista said about providing the highest quality service out there, whether it's you're functioning as like a coach or educator role, or you're selling a course. It needs to be the best of the best, and it will easily sell itself. But the credibility and the ethics and the alignment is at the top for those type of partnerships as well.
I love that. And I also love that you talked about the clients, because we haven't really touched on this, but clients can become referees as well, right? So it doesn't just have to be other business minded people or other practitioners or professionals. So Trista, have you had clients that have referred you, and how has that process gone?
Yes, and I love those. Speaking of advocacy, you're almost like creating your own advocates, right? For through supporting someone to actually help them learn and really embody how impactful nutrition can be for the health and well-being. So I recently had a patient who actually had started with us after being on GLP-1s for a few months, and she was meeting with her nurse practitioner and their team monthly to track her changes. And they noticed that she was losing weight and a lot of muscle mass at that same time. We had worked together, tweaked some things, upped her protein along with some other dietary adjustments. Nothing else changed in her life. Medication the same, right? Exercise, lifestyle, job routine the same. And her muscle was actually not just slowing and stopping in terms of muscle loss and wasting, but it was actually growing as well. So there was muscle growth occurring on a month-to-month basis that was actually shown through her monthly check-ins. And she became like, this is like probably like one of the happiest sessions I've ever had in our last discharge session. She just became like the biggest advocate. She was like, oh my goodness, I told everyone on my nurse practitioner team. They asked me what was different from this experience versus the rest. And I explained why. She's like, I shared your contact and all of that. So sometimes it's just on that same vein of just like doing great work. Of course, having professional boundaries with patients, but a lot of times you develop like a really strong rapport with them. And they also, know that you are probably trying to grow your business as well. So most of the time they're pretty happy, I find, to share it, if not with other referring providers, then like with friends, families, partners as well. And as someone who, I'm a person, I also have doctor, therapist, RMT, etc. Like I am 10 times more likely to book an appointment with someone that a trusted friend or colleague or neighbor even has recommended. So I think your patients can be your best advocates.
And I love that you said that. It's funny because that's what's worked for Practice Better too. So we've definitely grown through our customers who've loved us too. We actually have a partnership program with 3 tiers, but one of them is called Customer Advocates, because they would just go and tell other people about Practice Better, and then they would come to Practice Better, and then and be like, how did you find us? And be like, oh, so and so, my colleague, they just love your platform. They kept going on about it. I had to see what it was all about. And then those practitioners they don't even look for other EHR practice management software. They just go with whatever their colleague or friend has recommended because they trust them. So I love that. And on the vein of talking about our partnership program, Meg, you're actually, all three of you are in our partnership program, but Meg, you've been in our partnership program for quite some time. So I'd love to know, like, what has your experience been in the partnership program? How has it benefited your business? How has it helped you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just like you say, it makes so much sense for us. So the way that we use it, nested health coach certification, we teach other providers how to health coach. And so we literally use Practice Better as a learning management software with them. So they are our clients in Practice Better, but also we recommend that they get their own version, a provider version of Practice Better. And we give all the intake forms, all the notes, all the legal forms, all of that stuff. We give as import codes to them so they can just really quickly set up their own Practice Better. And really, honestly, it is back to that alignment. It makes so much sense because they experience what Practice Better feels like as a client when they're in our program. It's so much more easy for them to set up, intuitive for them to set up, and it benefits us as well, in terms of the partnership that we have with you. So we've been really, really, really pleased about the ability to, not only get people set up really, really, really quickly because they're familiar with it, but also it's a tool that, everybody keeps even after they're through our program. I've never heard of anybody converting. It's so useful in so many ways. And so we teach it as part of how we, go about our business, and it's been really successful.
Amazing. I'm glad it's been helpful to you. And shameless plug here, but we are going to be having a partner webinar next week, just introduction to partnerships. If you want to know more about Practice Better partnership program, that Clean Life partnership program, how you can earn revenue because it is a revenue stream, and there's lots of other opportunities that come through because of that. You are more than welcome to join, and the link will be in the chat there. I'm going to just pivot. I have more questions to ask Trista and Meg and Sarah. This has been so helpful. Can you tell us in the chat, like, just put a number 1 if this has been helpful for you? I think it's been helpful, but I want to make sure that this has been valuable, that you're learning new things from our wonderful panelists. And I'm gonna move. So just okay, I see 1-1. Thank you, Devin. I appreciate you. Okay, there's a couple coming in. I'm gonna just move over to the Q&A and ask some questions here. Even though there's so many more questions I want to ask you, but of course I want the audience to get their questions. So Alicia is asking, what are examples of how practitioners have approached med spas and Lululemon with their services? What's in it for them? And are they referring patients to them? So Sarah, I think that one's going to go to you.
Yeah, so let's start with med spas, because what I would recommend doing and what my clients do is just look in their local area for med spas. You can go on Google and search med spas near me, and you will find so many. You could also search like cosmetic procedures near me or whatever, because even some of even bariatric places, they may not always have a full-time practitioner that may fit the needs of what you could do for them. So those are all other places, like med spas, for an example. Google med spas near me, get you a list. I would have a professional, like, Canva designed, like, this is about me, this is the services I provide. And you can do 2 things. Like Trista said, email is a thing, obviously, but we do risk going to the junk and not getting anywhere. I would send it out on email, but I would honestly follow up either with a call or just a visit there and go talk to the front secretary and say, I wanted to, discuss this partnership with a manager or whoever leads the facility. One of my best friends here owns a med spa, and that's really what prompted me to start teaching connections with med spas, because her and I kind of work together on that. So just starting with that list of med spas, and the first thing you do want to ask with a lot of these partnerships is, are you already working with X? type of provider, whatever type of provider you are. Are you already partnered with X type of provider? Because we don't want to step on toes. We don't want to rub anyone wrong. And if they are not, now you have your foot in the door to proceed with like setting up a meeting or something like that. Lululemon is a little different because they're not going to do like the traditional referrals or even affiliates, but they have a lot of events and they do a lot of giveaways and like things that you can even have in their Lululemon. And maybe they'll toss something in a bag for you. And it just depends on, what location it is. Again, I would reach out to like the manager and ask if they have any events coming up, anything that you can partner on. You would be surprised how dropping a business card in a Lululemon bag will, do wonders for your name getting out there in your local community. But a big thing with Lululemon and other places like that is the events. What kind of community events are they doing? Because then you can take control of like who you meet at those events and how you partner from there.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Meg or Trista, either one of you can answer this. The question is from Ruby about what's your opinion about commission-based referral partnerships? Are there regulatory issues with paid referrals?
Yeah, so I guess I will start, and it's going to be quite brief for me. So as a dietitian, I am pretty sure, I don't know if the college is watching right now, that they're actually not allowed commission-based referrals for registered dietitians in Ontario. So that's just something that we don't necessarily, explore. But Magda might have a different approach.
I do not have a different approach. It scares me as a licensed provider. I would have to have my lawyer look into it, but it's not been something that I have ever been willing to risk.
Yeah, and I think that's fine too, right? So it's like do what you feel comfortable with. We talked about alignment, through and through. So again, do a referral partnership that's going to be in alignment for you. If it gives you the icky, then just stay away. There's a question from Jeannie. I believe this is to Trista. She's asking, are you just cold faxing practitioners, or maybe in the past were you, or do you have recommended templates for this fax? Or maybe I know you created your own template. I don't know if you have time to just kind of walk us through what it kind of looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So to answer the first question, yes, I do start by cold faxing the actual clinics all across Ontario and BC, also where I'm licensed, and I always follow up 3 times before I move on, right? Just because it can take a little bit of consistent messaging to get someone's attention. Likewise, when I receive referrals, I also follow up 3 times for a potential patient before I move on as well, or move on, or put it on hold. So what I did was I actually went onto Practice Better. They have forms, and I actually created a template of the cold email or the cold fax, so to speak. So I'll say, hey, room for clinic name or referring provider, and I'll introduce a little bit of myself, and then jump mainly into the benefits on how I can help them and make their job a little easier. So like I said, I don't think they don't know me. They're not going to care what kind of programs I offer. They really just care about how I'm going to make their jobs more effective as a primary care physician. How are you going to help my patients? So they'll tailor that depending on who I'm cold emailing. For example, if I'm emailing a fertility clinic, then I'll use the template of nutrition therapy is shown to improve fertility outcomes by XYZ. If I'm cold emailing, for example, I have relationships established with gynecologists, right, who see maybe patients with endometriosis getting ready for laparoscopic surgery. They don't necessarily care so much about fertility at this stage of life, so I'll tailor that messaging to more, okay, prep for surgery, post-surgery, digestive symptoms, how nutrition can support that. So there is that template, but I'm always personalizing that based on who I'm sending that cold fax to get their attention. Yeah, and that's kind of that whole process. It's saved there in Practice Better, so we're able to just quickly fax that along. And then I also attach on page 2 just a standard referral form where it has my clinic's logo, our brand name, the patient's name, the date of birth, their contact information as well.
Okay, that's so helpful. And I love that because it's a template and it's in Practice Better, you can duplicate it, then you can change out certain parts without having to start from scratch. So again, how are we using the tools within Practice Better to make our lives easier? I have a question here from April. Now that medications have been added, I believe this is referring to our recently released medication and supplement tracker. Now that that's in Practice Better, how do you decide when to refer to a pharmacist or doctor? Meg, any ideas there?
Yeah,
And you
that's
got
really
25
interesting.
seconds.
It's great. I don't know that it changes it for me, really honestly, because we collected it before. I think the ease of having it there is blessings. It is so much easier now to import that information. But I think I'm still looking at I'm going to refer uh, whenever I think it warrants it. If the person is having tons of side effects, if there is a significant nutrition interaction that's not happening. But generally speaking, I love the new feature, and I think it's amazing to have that information.
Amazing. Well, I just want to thank Trista, Sarah, and Meg so much for your time. Thank you for contributing to this panel and just sharing your expertise on referrals, partnerships, and affiliate networks, and how you can use these to grow your income. Again, make sure to check out our partner webinar next week. Come and ask any questions and see how joining our partnerships programs here at Practice Better and That Clean Life can provide a new source of revenue for you as well. And yeah, thank you. And we are now entering to a break. So go get some water and then come back at 4. Take care, everyone.